Hey, this is Gatz from Gatz Living Organic, and this is a grower's interview. Well, the very first time I started growing was right out of college. I had a friend named Anthony, and he was growing, and my friend group was like, yeah, you need to get Anthony over at your apartment and get some plants in there because that's wasted space. And I totally agreed, so we got some plants in there. And before you knew it, I had a hammock in the kitchen. And the entire apartment, all 1,200 square feet, was filled with like 100 plants, and the harvest was horrible, obviously. But yeah, that's how I got into growing, and really, I was already smoking weed, you know, literally the day out of the military, you know, with friends celebrating, you know, so weed was starting to become a pretty big part of my life, especially dealing with all the repercussions from the military or whatever you want to say. So yeah, the weed was helping me out, you know, especially, you know, kind of settle down to civilian life and not be so high strung all the time. And so yeah, that's why I got into growing, because I really couldn't afford to buy it. So I think the very first strain was Blue Dream, yeah, and it was pretty easy to grow. I harvested day like 50. And it was all airy, and I dried it in a shoebox, and I used Fox Farm with general hydroponic nutrients because that's all the grow shop had, and it cost a ton of money to do nothing. Yeah, I got really frustrated with that real quick. And then so my next experience growing, I actually met my ex-wife at that time, and her family was like, had some association with a farm. And so basically I ended up on that family farm, and we were growing outdoors organically, and that's where I got my passion for organic, because we were really completely self-sustainable. And it was really like, I was kind of open my mind to it, that you can really just grow your own food anywhere you go. Like, you really don't have to be dependent on anything. And so that's why I started making my soil. Anything fuel. I love OGs. Unfortunately, they're not the most popular, but I would love to grow it. But OGs are my favorite for sure, like hands down. I think each has their appeal. When synthetic, you have plenty of instructions on the internet by all the manufacturers that are trying to sell you products. So there's plenty of help and help groups and stuff, and having a predetermined recipe is always helpful, especially if you're venturing into something new. And I think that's the appeal to new growers and maybe simple people that might just want to throw things at it and have it done. I think with organics, there's less support, and all the knowledge that you have to gain is pretty self-discovery. So you're going to have to do your own research and connect your own dots to figure out your own solutions, because each individual scenario is going to be slightly different. You know, what's advantageous in your area is not going to be so advantageous in another area, and so you might have to you know, buffer, you know, that with knowledge and ability. So yeah, you'll have to do a lot more research with organic. But with organic, I think that's a lot more scalable. You know, you can't really take a hydro setup. What if they increase the prices of the nutrients? Or what if they increase the price of water or rent or electricity? And now you're stuck indoors with a hydro setup, or you're stuck indoors with some sort of synthetic setup or drip system or expensive depreciating material. Like I showed you outside, there's a garden. I've put no money into it. Everything is from my yard, and I just use my hose water. The thing's like 6 or 7 feet tall, and you'll come back at the end of the season and you'll see it's just perfect. And it's like, we all have the ability to do that. We don't have to give any of these corporations or companies money. We can do it on our own with everything available. You just need like half an acre of property. Yeah, for sure. So that's the benefits to organic, I think, is you can scale that anywhere on the planet, and with that knowledge you can create literally paradise on earth anywhere. You can turn deserts into jungles in generations with the knowledge. So that's why I promote organic. It's more than just what's best. I think that's what's scalable and sustainable for our planet. And you know, shipping things in plastic bottles and containers and diesel fuel to, you know, take it down the railroad track, and it's not sustainable. It's not a good thing. You know, everything's available in our yard. Let's not be afraid of bugs. It's there to help you. Ooh, that's a good one. Environment or genetics? See, the thing is, you can have a perfect environment and you can grow some shitty genetics. So I would have to say genetics, because you can create any environment anywhere. Like we just talked about in the synthetic versus organic question, you can create any environment you like. So without the proper genetics, there's no way to attain fire. And so I would say genetics are 100% more important. And then the environment, you're not going to be able to achieve it without it. So, you know, but it's totally dependent on genetics. You can't get it without it. Oh, and one more thing. Can I add more to that? Yeah. So another thing is you have to select the right genetics for your application. Sometimes the genetics that you want are not appropriate for what you're growing. Sometimes it's been bred for indoors and you're doing a greenhouse. Sometimes it's been bred as a hash plant, but you just like the name, you know, and maybe you should be making hash with it, not so much smoking it. And maybe it's made for an RSO, or it's a compound for some sort of medical, it was bred specifically for a medical condition. And you aren't familiar with that, but you're out here growing it, when you could have something like M33 or something outdoors that would be pest and mildew resistant, perfect for our latitude, something like that, versus trying to grow like a cookies cut, and that's going to be susceptible to all these bugs, and it's so hybridized that it's got no type of defense to really anything. So it's really just when you have outdoor scenarios, sometimes you're stuck to these piney terpenes because that's what is antifungal and pest resistant. See, to try to put these fruity and sweet terpenes outdoors is just like swimming upstream. And so when we actually select the appropriate genetics for our environments, we're going to have a lot easier time and spend a lot less money trying to achieve our goals. I'll take advice from anybody. They don't need to be a grower. If they have any advice, I'll listen, and I'll always keep it in the back of my mind. I might think it's sus at first, but I can't unhear what somebody tells me. And if somebody thought enough to open their mouth, like I hate talking, so like if somebody thought enough to open their mouth and tell me something, I'm gonna appreciate the effort, at least, you know. Steve Cantwell, from Pahrump, Nevada. I'm having a hard time remembering. Green Life Productions. Heard about him 2 or 3 years ago when I first started. Not first started, but when a couple months after getting into the living soil beds, and basically he was doing everything I had envisioned for myself already, and so just taking notes from him and learning from his mistakes and stuff has been really beneficial for me, because you know, now I don't have to waste time doing some certain things, and he gives a lot of tips on future cannabis project that I've appreciated. So Glenn is definitely, or not Glenn, Steve is definitely stepped my indoor living soil bed game up. And then another person I really appreciate is Glenn Ravensburg. I think he's from South Dakota. He does something with commercial, I think, potato agriculture, but he's taught me so much about soil compaction and microbiology and all of that. And so I think those two people right there are probably my two biggest influences. And then there's another girl, Linda Clark or something like that. She's a microbiologist, and I think from Rutgers. I don't remember what school. Don't quote me on it. But those three people I've been like definitely, and also Jeff Lowenfels. Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. His 3 books are really like a layman's guide to nutrition and microbiology and your plant health. So if you don't want to dive into too complex books, those 3 books are pretty good for you. So recommend those. But those 4 people are the people that I really look up to in our community. I don't think ego can hurt anybody but oneself, right? If you're if you have too much of an ego, that's just going to burn bridges for yourself. So ego can't hurt anybody, but I think it's a good question, because ego is very important. Like, ego is just an emotion, and I think it's something that a lot of people take under negative context. You know, it's not really a negative thing at all. Like, having an ego is necessary, especially when growing. You have such tremendous defeats, like crushing defeats growing. Nothing ever goes to plan. Like, I have backup to backup plans. I always have a plan D. There's always a plan D. And that's how it goes with growing. It's never going to go to plan. And so having an ego is the only thing that can carry you through these defeats. Like, if you're not pumping yourself back up and telling yourself that you're the best and that you can do it again and make it happen again, and this is just a fluke, then you're never going to make it. So anytime you meet successful growers, they all have egos, right? They're just keeping it in check. There's no way that you can be a successful grower and not have an ego. So yeah, egos are important. Do I think plants talk to each other? I think that's, I think plants can definitely communicate. For sure, they definitely have vibrational frequencies. Do I think it's really affecting the plant health? No, I don't think it is, but what is affecting the plant is something definitely. It's not just a fluke. So we have to, anytime we see one plant bad, it's something that could probably spread to everything. So we need to isolate that plant if we can. We have to do a soil sample if we can't, and figure out immediately what's going on in that root zone to cause that problem, because something's going on and it's going to spread to everything else. So just to think that it's just emotionally depressed one day they don't get emotional like that. No, they're going to try to thrive as much as possible until there's a bacteria or a fungus or something that's, or they're sick, they have a cold or something, and then we got to fix that. You know, we bump it up with something. So I do think they communicate, and I do think that they have emotions, and in fact they can tell you anything that you want to hear, you know, that you're trying to listen for, you know. And but I don't think that they get emotional over music or you know, because a leaf gets stripped off their buddy next to them. I don't think they're getting sad. No. Staying consistent. That's I mean, that's an easy question to answer. Like, you have to stay, they're like children, right? You have to be out there right when they need you, not when you feel like it. And so there's plenty of times where you might have a date, or you might have something lined up with some friends, and you really can't do it because you have to meet that window. If you want it to be perfect, you have to meet that window. And so, you know, doing it a day later might jeopardize a lot of things. And so I think just being consistent, making sure that you get water on those plants every day, is the most difficult part of growing. For me, there's no science to it. I'd say everything is feel. Just observation from the natural environments. You know, from growing outdoors on the farm, I spent a lot of time just hanging outside. We didn't have AC, and so we just hung outside most of the day, all through the night, even slept next to the plants a lot of the times, and that kind of just kept me in tune with what the actual environment is supposed to feel like. And that's how I set my rooms up, and that's how I set my lights up, to mimic what I felt when I was there. And so I would say none of it is really science at all. Like, I do, when it comes to, you know, some soil development and stuff, and how I can maximize the actual rhizosphere, I do a little bit of research there. But as far as when I should water and when I should prune and when I should harvest, that's all feel. Everything is all feel over time, and what I think is what it should be. Yeah, it was great. So I think I was 12 or 13, and my friend TJ and two or three other friends, we were all skateboarding, and I was on a BMX bike, and I was pretty good on the BMX bike. I could do all the grinds and stuff, and so we crushed up, or we ground up some weed or whatever, and some shitty weed, and we got a little Coke can that we poked some holes into, and we just smoked it there on these steps in between these two houses. And I waited like maybe 10 minutes bullshitting. I was like, all right, we smoked some weed, let's go back and, you know, let's go skate. And this is the first time I had ever smoked, and so I was riding, everything's cool, feeling great. I was like, this thing's not even hitting me. And I go to bunny hop up the curb, and I literally nosedived into the curb. I missed the judgment by like 5 feet. I probably bunny hopped 3 seconds too early, the tire hit the curb. I fall face first on the curb. All my friends are laughing at me. And I just sat there for 30 seconds laughing at myself. I was like, how the fuck did that happen? And so ever since then, I was like, I was pretty hooked. I don't know. I feel like I should say something meaningful. You know?
If you have
for the kids out there.
You gotta do it for the kids, man.
Yeah.
You gotta do it for the kids.
Stay in school. No, fuck the system. Yeah, you know what I want to say? I want to say thank you for watching this interview. I wish everybody that sees this the best luck in life, and you can grow yourself perfectly just as good as me the very first try. It's not hard. You can definitely have the confidence to do it. I will help you. Just reach out, send me a message, and I will be happy to pick up your phone call and talk to you as long as you need to get you growing, because every one of us needs to be growing, because it starts with weed, but then it goes to your food system, and now all of a sudden now your whole food supply is grown by you in your own yard, and there's no better feeling. So reach out to me and let's get you growing in any way possible. How about that? And you can reach me at gatzorganic.com, G-A-T-Z organic.com, at DC Gatsby, and my email is gatzorganic@gmail.com. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you.